Good day, students. How are you? So this week, our topic is the human person as an embodied spirit. All right. So as you can see in here, this is equivalent of 2 weeks. All right. Week, weeks 5 and 6. All right. Okay. So of course, our memory text this time is found in in the book of Psalm chapter 8, verse 4 that says, "What is man that you are mindful of him? The son of man that you care for him. You made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honor." Stop for a second and ask yourself this question. How big is the universe? How much do I really know about it? Or better yet, how much do I really know what about the reality? If we are honest to ourselves, not that much really. To be more accurate, it is quite insignificant compared to the vast cosmos of God's creation. A wise man once said, "Wisdom is knowing how little we know." In the light of all this, the question, what is man that you are mindful of him? The son of man that you care for him? For him, find its place find its place. Have you ever thought of it? Why does a God so big have to care about a man whose existence is so evidently irrelevant? That man himself exclaims, "What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes." That is in James 4:14. For all people are like grass, and all their glory is like the flowers of the field. The grass withers and the flowers fall. However, the more we know how little we really are, the more we get to appreciate how great the love of God for us or for us really is. Let us use our imagination for a while. Picture this in your mind. God is in Eden, bending down and forming the first human being, Adam. What do you think was going on in God's mind at that very moment? Women never, okay? Women never know. But I know God is a God who declares the end from the beginning. That is found in Isaiah 46:10. God could have seen ahead as he was forming Adam. He knew that the hand that he was shaping would eventually be the hand that would nail him on the cross, and the breath of life that we should give man. Would he be the life that would take his? Yet all this did not stop God from giving us a chance to live. And when the time came that he had to give his life so that we can regain ours, for joy set before him, he endured the cross. Okay, so our gist this afternoon is, what are we in the sight of the Lord? Who are we in the sight of the Lord? We are mist. We are just mist. Okay, God knew that the people he created were the ones, will be the ones who will nail him on the cross. But still, he saved us. That's how good God is. All right. So we have here application. Few in the world today appreciate how great God's love for us is. Let us tell the world. Okay, so for our reflection here, write down the memory text and provide 2 to 3 sentences of what you have learned from the devotional in the form provided. Okay, take a picture of what you have written, including the prayer, and send it to me through Messenger or email. Excuse me. So put your reflection here, class. Prayer. Dear God, we thank you because our insignificance gives more and more significance. Okay. So that's how good God is. Let's pray. We thank you, the Father, for opportunity of being with us this time, and thank you so much for opportunity of learning, not just in the academic world, but learning with your promises, learning with your words, words that are sufficient with wisdom. Bless us, the Father, as we continue discussing our lesson. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. So, okay. Learning targets is number 1, define person as an embodied spirit. Okay. Understand the nature of the human beings and our relationship with our bodies. Okay. 3 and 4, you can see based on the screen. All right. So, let us push our study further and learn how philosophy helps us answer the fundamental question, who am I? Okay, my nature, purpose, limitations, and possibilities for transcendence. The question of existence, who am I, is an age-old question that has perplexed the minds of many throughout history. So what do we mean by perplex? All right. What do we mean by perplex? Let us ask somebody. All right. Full of perplex, or what do you mean is that? It's an old age question that has perplexed, meaning when say perplexed class, it is full or filled with uncertainty. Okay. Full of uncertainty, I mean the minds of many throughout history. So it is one of the hardest questions of philosophy that hundreds, if not thousands, have sought to answer. And yet until now, the question still remains. To seek an answer to this question is to engage in philosophy. All right. So in here, entry point, the following are stories told by Pastor G.T. Ning. Read any of the 2 stories and fill the table below with the required answers. Me Too. A story is told of a country's prime minister who was about to pay a visit to the United States. At a time, the president of the United States was President Bill Clinton. Unfortunately, this prime minister could neither speak nor understand any English. He was a little nervous to pay an official visit to the US without the capacity and ability to speak English, but his assistants assured him there is nothing to worry about. All you need to do when you meet President Clinton is to say, "How are you?" Because in the US, "How are you" is the standard greeting, whether the meaning or not. And when President Clinton says, "I'm fine, and you?" You will answer, me too. All right, this is a really great class. I really like this. All right. So in short, all you need to remember and reply are, how are you? And me too. All right, this is really interesting class. Okay. So taking in the suggestion of his assistants, every day the prime minister practiced, how are you? Me too. How are you? Me too. He memorized the script and he was confident to go for the visit. The day finally arrived when he is to meet President Bill Clinton. The prime minister was a little bit startled by the imposing figure of the president. He got a little bit nervous. Instead of saying, how are you? He said, who are you? President Clinton was a bit surprised. He said to himself, here is the prime minister of a country and he doesn't know who I am. But quickly he regained his composure and said, my name is Bill Clinton, the husband of Hillary. And you? The prime minister replied, me too. All right, well, this is really interesting. Okay, so well, you could understand the story all about class, what it's all about. All right. So in here, identity. Um, a flight was just canceled. It was a full flight and the passengers were being inconvenienced. They missed their appointments, and there was only one gate agent in the counter, trying her very best to rebook all the passengers. The line was long and the passengers were angry. They were not in a good mood to negotiate anything. And as this gate agent was busy rebooking passengers, one passenger skipped the line, came to the front, took his ticked, and slammed it on the counter. He said, I want to get on the next flight, and it must be on the first class. The agent said, excuse me, sir, I'm sure we can work something out. But look at the line. I'm trying to help these passengers. Please get back in the line and wait your turn. We will certainly work something out. The man was not impressed, and he said with a loud voice in the hearing of passengers around him, do you have any idea who I am? The gate agent took a deep breath, calmly picked up the public address system, and she spoke through the microphone. Good morning, all passengers. All passengers. There is a gentleman at the gate 17 who doesn't have any idea who he is. If you can help find his identity, or if you know his identity, please come to the gate 17. Now, write down 3 insights or lessons you got from either of the 2 stories above. Answer in 1 sentence only. Okay, so write down 3 insights or lessons you got from either of the stories above. Right? Okay, in 1 sentence only. So, say for example, what have you learned from the story of the first story that we had read earlier was the story of the prime minister. Okay, the prime minister who doesn't know how to talk in English, and of course it's also about President Bill Clinton. Okay, so that was the first story. The second story was about a passenger who was furious. Okay, who was furious. Okay. They wanted to go ahead of the line. All right. So after that, all right. So where are we now? Okay. Extend your learning or firm up. Knowing who we are is a crucial step of in developing a holistic view of the world. How we view ourselves, who we are, where we came from, what our purpose is, etc. ultimately influences how we respond to everything around us. Our choices and decisions. So person as an embodied spirit. Before beginning any study, it is fundamental that we first clearly define and understand your terms. The statement person as an embodied spirit may seem unassuming, but it can be easily misunderstood. One might suppose the statement above to mean that a human being is a ghost that lives inside a body made of meat and bones, which is totally different from the idea the statement proposes. Thus, there is a need to functionally define these terms. So person, consider the definitions. Human or individual, okay, that's according to Merriam-Webster. A self-conscious or rational being according to dictionary.com, okay, and many more, okay. The only living creature that is endowed with mind by God, okay, that is according to Gonzaga, PG, okay, no date. Based on the definitions above, we may infer that a person is a human being with a body and free will, capable of self-awareness and formulating rational thoughts. This means that a person is an individual that has a body and is conscious, aware of his or her existence, environment, and actions. A person is also capable of thinking which leads to the activity of choosing and making decisions. So embodied spirit, take a look at the following definitions. Thus, when we say embodied spirit, we mean that the body is not separate from the soul or consciousness, just as the soul is not separate from the body. Okay, that's according to philnotes.com. We believe we are created as embodied spirits, which means our souls, consciousness are not separate from our bodies or our bodies from our souls. Okay? Man has a body and a soul that together consist what he calls his self. That's according to Camiluza. So when we say that the human person is an embodied spirit, we specifically mean that the human person is the point where the tangible or the human body and intangible human consciousness meet. Okay? We cannot talk, therefore, of the human person without the union of the body and consciousness. Of course, class, our soul and our body are merged together, okay? Are merged together. Our consciousness and our bodies are merged together. Simply put it, a person cannot exist without having both consciousness and body. One's consciousness cannot detach from his or her body. So, what have you learned, class, based on our reading? What do you mean by embodied spirit? Okay? Okay. So, for example, okay, so when we say embodied spirit, we mean that the body is not separate from the soul. All right. Thank you so much. So try it. Given the above discussion, Write your own explanation of the statement, person as an embodied spirit in the space provided. Answer in one or two sentences only. Who I am. We humans have questioned practically everything in the world. This is a result of our God-given ability to think and reason out. Resolve believe that since the human being is gifted with reason, he or she wonders and questions everything, including her existence. Who I am, who am I rather, is a seemingly unassuming question. The answers seem abuse and therefore we don't find the need to ask. But when we stop and really think about, we find ourselves lacking of any sufficient answer. The fact is, this inquiry does not simply deal with a mere information about ourselves, but dives deep into the very reason of our existence. Both Rizal and Kant believe that despite God's gift of reason and free will, man still finds it difficult to, with a question, who am I, with certainty. Certainty. Being human, we always desire to be in a state in which things feel familiar to us and that we are at ease and in control of our environment, experiencing low levels of anxiety and stress. We simply call these our comfort zones. Yet it is unavoidable that in one way or another, we will bump into situations that force us out of our comforts. These are called boundary situations. What do you mean by boundary situations? Okay, boundary situations rather shake and break the normal patterns of our existence, such as death, sufferings, conflicts, tragedy, sickness, failures, communication, struggles, and guilt. Okay, boundary situations. Say, for example, we want to live like 300 years, but the lifespan is uncertain. All right. So these events cause us to pause and think more seriously about the question of our existence. They allow us to reflect on the meaning, okay, and the meaning, purpose, and limits of our lives. And thus, we who are questioning become the question. The verse written in Psalm chapter 8, verse 4 is a great example of this. What is a man? What is man that thou art mindful of them? And the Son of Man that thou visitest him. Visit, visitest him, rather. Similar questions such as, why am I experiencing guilt, death, or pain? Why am I suffering? What is the meaning of all this? How do I deal with all of this? Are all part of the bigger question. Who am I? Okay, so try it. Write down the boundary situations that you are currently experiencing in your life. What question or realization about your existence is this experience leading to you? Explain. Example. Boundary situation example. If I'm going to put, okay, I'm going to put an example here. I'm asking, God, why is it that I was raised in a very poor family? Okay, then my explanation, even from the elementary to secondary until college, I am a working student. And so many times I ask God, why is it, God, why is it that I'm poor? Why is that? Okay, do you recognize me as my son, as your son? So things like that. So this is what you're going to do, class, okay? You know what boundary situation is. So put here, right? Put it here. One or two, that's okay. That's okay. All right, then your explanations. Okay, so duality of body and soul from the word dual meaning two. Okay, the view in answering the question, who am I, is the duality of the body and the soul. This view is held by those who believe that the body, meaning the physical, tangible part, is separate from the soul, the mental, intangible part. Excuse me. The soul or the spirit, as we progress in the study, is to be understood as the mind, which is attributed with mental capacities and abilities. The mind is not to be mistaken as the brain. Okay? According to Plato was one of those who suggested the idea of the dualism of mind and body. Okay? He believed that the human soul exists prior to the body and even long after the body is gone. This is related to the theory of forms, wherein the material realm or the world we live in is separate from the eternal world of forms or essence, the world of ideas. It makes sense of our existence by proposing that the soul that we humans possess is immortal and already existed in the world of ideas and knowledge. Therefore, our current learning process is merely the soul remembering and recollecting what what that is once what that is rather an apology for that. Okay, once we knew when it was in the realm of knowledge. This view explains that this is the reason why some things we do seem so natural that it cannot be the first time you have done it. Okay, and according to Rene Descartes, okay, a mathematician, it also supports dualism. He also supports dualism by arguing that the mind that which dots, which understands, conceives, affirms, denies, wills, rejects, imagines, and perceives, exists separate from the body, since not all bodies have the capacity to move itself, to reason, to think. Okay, thus such capacities must be attributed to a mind. The capabilities of the human mind is indeed too great to simply contribute to a brain or something physical. People who are not born physically complete do not necessarily have broken minds in general. And yet, the interactions and linkages between two are undeniable. Truly, the idea that the mind is separate from the body is hard to comprehend. Correct. Now, unity of the body and soul. So monism is much simpler to comprehend. To claim that the body and the soul makes up one being does not require much proof. According to Saint Thomas Aquinas, is one of the proponents of monism. He proposed class that you know that a being cannot exist if body and mind are not united. A being is one even though it is composed of several parts. In death, it ceases to exist since that which makes it up is no longer complete. Simply put it, the sum is the total of its parts. Remove a part and it is no longer whole. How about in biblical view of man? The Bible views man as a divinely created being. God said, let us make man in our own image and likeness. That's according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Unlike any other creature, God formed man from dust of the ground. That's according to Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, using pre-existing matter. The creation of man was the summit of the creation week. God put man in charge over planet Earth and all over all other life forms. The Bible, the Bible's equation for the creation of man is straightforward. The dust of the ground plus the breath of life equals a living being or a living soul. It is important to notice that man became a living soul. Man is the living soul. Nothing in the creation accounts indicates that man received a soul, some kind of separate entity that at creation was united with the human body. The notion that the conscious soul either goes to heaven or hell or roams the earth is unbiblical. The Bible says, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 20. Okay. And then shall the dust return to the earth as it was, and the spirit shall return unto God who gave it. Okay. So when Jesus' best friend Lazarus died, Jesus did not say Lazarus was in heaven or hell. Neither did he say Lazarus was wandering around. Okay, so Jesus simply stated that Lazarus is sleeping. Okay, that's according to John 11:11. Okay, so humility. The biblical word translated as soul, nephesh, and suchi at times may refer to the whole person and at other time to a particular aspect of man, such as the affection, emotions, appetite, and feelings. This usage, da, in no way shows that man is made up of two separate and distinct parts. The body and the soul exist together. Together they form an indivisible union. The words translated as spirit in both the Old and New Testament also does not indicate that the spirit is an entity in man capable of conscious existence apart from the body. Although the Bible views the nature of man as unity, it does not clearly define the relationship between body, soul, and spirit. At times, soul and spirit are used interchangeably, as in Matthew 10:28, where man is viewed as body and soul, and in 1 Corinthians 7:34, where man viewed as body and spirit. In a special case class, man is characterized as body, soul, and spirit. Thus, it is clear that man is an indivisible unit. Any deficiency in one area will affect the rest. Correct. Try it. Do you agree with the statement? When the body, okay, the physical part dies, the soul, conscious part, also dies with it? Explain your answers in 3 to 5 sentences or sentences. The relationship of I and the body. We have learned that man has both a material, okay, the physical body, and immaterial, the consciousness aspect of being. From here onwards, we will refer to man's conscious part and as the I and to his physical part as the body. Okay? As we have discussed above, that I can only function as long as it is attached to and works through the body. And as such, man realizes his or her own limitations. Whenever the I asserts the certainty of anything, it can only verify it through the body. What the body feels, touches, smells, hears, sees, or senses is the basis for validity and reflection. The I can only be certain of its existence through the body. Thus, the body is my existence. Who am I or who I am? It is It is simply means that what you see through my body is what and who I am. Okay? I have my body. The experience of the oneness of my body and I is expressed in the claim I have my body. It claims the existence of my body, but not part from me. It implies that I have possession over my body. I have a possession over my body. I own my body. My body is mine. Yet it does not only express my authority over my body, but that I have responsibility over it. The responsibility I have over my body is greater than the responsibility that I have over my other things. Okay? If I can leave the other things behind, such as cell phones, car, etc., I can do that with my body. Wherever I go and whatever I do, my body goes and does what I do. I can control or manipulate my body since I have the authority over it. But since it is part of my existence, my response, my body is not manipulation, but active concern and care. If manipulate my body as a mere object, I am also manipulating myself. All right, so I am my body. Since I possess my body, no one can claim it as their own, and I am the only one who has the right to claim it because it is my body. Okay, so my body and I are one. Therefore, I can say I am my body. The union between my body and I is not merely a relationship between two organisms or entities. Okay, for Gabriel Marcel, my body cannot exist apart from me. Neither can I apart from my body. When my body ceases to exist, I too cease to exist, and vice versa. When my body plays basketball or sings and prays, my body also plays basketball, sings and prays. Okay, so human being in time, right? Human being in time. It is innate in our nature as humans that we attempt to overcome our our finite existence. Our story was what a story was once told of a Chinese emperor who was obsessed in searching for the elixir of eternal life. He spent mass amounts of resources to fund countless researches and expeditions in the hopes of gaining the secret of eternal life. Yet ironically, his obsession with immortality led to his untimely death at the age of 49 after ingesting a lethal dose of mercury from concoction brewed and believed by his alchemists and court physicians to give him eternal life. Xin Shi Huang's legacy still stands today as the first emperor to order the construction of the Great Wall of China and the making of the marvelous terracotta warriors. Okay? The warriors are supposed to be guarding the emperor in the afterlife. So the statement human being in time simply expresses the idea that man's existence is limited only and only in the present or the now. The now is the only particular time and space in which we can exist. We cannot live in the past or the future. Neither can we live in any two nor all three of them simultaneously. We can exist only in the present. Yet this idea does not detach the present from neither the past or the future. The past was once our present, and our present was once our future. For example, where and what I am today is a result of my decisions yesterday. But my decision today will eventually determine where and what I will be tomorrow. The past, present, and future are not isolated from each other, from one another, should I say. Consider the quotation below. Okay, a below class, that's a BELOW. That's, but in here that's there are two L, letter L. Okay, the quotation that says attitude is the librarian of our past, the speaker of our present, and the prophet or of our future. Wow, very good. Okay, so what else? Right, and here, let's practice your learnings. Activity 1, master your terms. Okay, instruction. Identify or complete the following definitions by writing the answer and the space provided before each item. Number 1, blank is an individual that has a body and is conscious, okay, aware of his or her existence, environment, and action. The first that I discussed earlier, class, okay, that is the answer. Second, we cannot talk blank. We can talk, therefore, of the human person without the union of body and consciousness, okay, etc. So you are going to put the answer on the space provided before the item. All right, it's up to 12. Activity number 2, my body and I. So instruction, we have learned that we are our body. We do not and cannot exist apart from our body. Therefore, taking care of ourselves means taking care of our body. Take selfies of 3 activities that you often do daily. Describe the activity and explain whether it is developing or destroying both yourself and your body. All right, so take a picture. You know what to do. Okay, so put the picture here, the photo, and then explain it here. All right, all right. So 1, 2, and 3. Add to your personal meaning or make meaning. Okay, now for the I learn, test 1, limit breakers. Instruction. The following are areas in your life where you encounter your personal limits, weaknesses. Write 1 encounter for each area that made you aware of your limits. Then, for every encounter, write a possibility or opportunity for overcoming that particular limit. Particular limit. Okay, say for example, number 1 is home. And then how about explanation? Encounter and limits. Okay, let us repeat the instruction. The following are areas in your life where you encounter your personal limits or weaknesses. So I say, for example, here, give 1 of your weaknesses in your home. So put 1 here, and then opportunity to grow. How can you improve that weaknesses? How can you improve that weakness of yours? All right. So that's what you're going to do. So 1 up to 5. And then let's jump into seek to implement learning, or that is performance tasks or transfer. Okay, mini tasks by Johari window. Okay, direction class. During this time of pandemic, a boundary situation where we are once again faced with the questions: what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of my life? Why I am suffering? Who am I? Using the Johari window, we will reaffirm your identity and find possibilities for transcendence during this time of crisis. There are 2 blank, okay, Johari windows below. 1 to list down your positive or agreeable qualities, that is your strength, and the other with your negative or disagreeable qualities, and that is your weaknesses. Now, open self. Okay, let others and yourself fill up. Blind self, only others will fill up. Hidden self, only yourself will fill up. Okay, and non-self, in the first jewelry window, write down how you believe you can and develop your positive traits to continuously improve yourself. Okay, so this is okay. Open self, blind self, hidden self, unknown self. You know what to do, but just follow the instruction. Of course, there is a rubric here. So thank you so much, class, for participating. But before going to our closing, let's have a assessment here. Okay, so there are questions here. A question rather. What will you do to get the expected outcome, or how to get the yes? Okay, so put your answer here and explain. Thank you so much, class, for listening. I enjoyed a lot with you. All right, so God bless. Bye bye.
Bye bye. The instruction. Retrieval.